with Natalie Dornan. So anyway, we're going to be recording this tonight, and we're looking forward to hearing Laurelle Bennett Jones and her story. This is probably one of the most favorite fun things to do, is to listen to people's stories. And tonight will definitely not disappoint you. So Laurelle, do you want to come in and say hi to the folks?
I am here.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Now that my
Good.
internet's working.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Well, I know you're particularly excited about telling your story tonight because you said to me one time, what'd you tell me?
Well, I said, how come nobody's saying my experience? And you said, well, why don't you tell it? So that's
So
how we got here.
so tonight's tonight, right?
Right, right.
Well, let's get in because I want to give you all the time that you need to share just your really inspiring story. Now, I know that you are not only on your own journey, but you're also an encourager. You've even coached. But let's go back to your story. How'd you even find out about Healthpointe?
Well, I knew about Healthpointe, gosh, when it first came around back and think it was in Hawaii, but um and I tried it a couple times, but I never did it correctly or seriously, I guess. There's always a time in your life when time is right. I guess it wasn't then, but I was too busy, too distracted. Uh, so I knew about it for a while. And actually, I was already eating. I had the list. I knew what foods to eat, and I already ate most of those foods. And I was taking the supplements anyway. And so it was, I had eliminated all the cheese and all the bread from my house. There's lots of things that I'd done, but I knew about Health Point. But then finally, I guess this pat or 2025, when you said, "Hey, I'm going to start a lean team," for some reason, I just said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it." And it wasn't a big decision at the time because I think as I reflect on it, I don't think it was going to work again anyway. So I said, "Sure, I'll do it. I like to be supportive." So there I was. So that's kind of how I got started, I guess, on this journey anyway. So
Well, that's interesting. And there are a number of folks that share that same experience that they've heard about Health Point. They went on, they fiddled around with it a little bit and it didn't go anywhere. And then they went back on it now with the Health Point support system that we have. And it's a whole different ballgame. Well, so tell me a little bit about what was your life like before Health Point?
okay, well, it was long. Actually, I'm 72. I have two adult sons, two grandchildren. I'm married to a wonderful husband. On Wednesday, this Wednesday, it'll be 48 years. And
Oh,
but we dated for 10 before that, so 58 years. So we've pretty much been together most of our lives. And and I say all that just my sons are pushing, my youngest one is getting close to 40 now, and I've been significantly overweight ever since my second child was born. So, 40 years. I mean, that's a long time. So prior to that, I was an athlete. I was growing up, I was a coach for a lot of years. Then I got busy parenting, obviously, and while I was also working on my career, I had a very successful career as a professional counselor for adolescents and parents, and also a grief counselor. But the stress of the job and the fact that it was a desk job, I mean, I learned through I did addiction counseling, and I learned very early that addiction. One of the things about addiction is that you use the substance, whatever it is, to change your mood. And food was my drug of choice, I guess, because all the stress of the work and just everything that I did. At some point, pretty early on, I got tired, because I was overweight, but also I got ashamed of the fact that I had been an athlete and I was still coaching, but to be overweight, that was kind of like that. It didn't work. It didn't work for me, and it really bothered my self-esteem. I realize that now. I didn't then, but I did always think that my career was great, my family was great, I had lots of great friends, everything was right except my weight, and that one thing, just that was the thing that drugged me down on everything, I think, because it was the one thing I couldn't master. Everything else I did great. I mean, I was proud of myself. Everybody always asked me to volunteer to be head of this committee and do that. I could do it all, but I couldn't lose weight. Now, that's what I was telling myself. But I've learned from my self-talk books that I've been reading that that's not necessarily, and I probably was programming myself pretty bad, But I even hid from the camera. In fact, when we tried to find a picture for us, to use, I got good at being a photographer because I was always on the correct side of the camera then. And so finding pictures of me, was difficult when I was heavy. And considering for 40 years, it's pretty hard to hide all that time. But also prior to that, I'll add that I made a few notes, and one of the things I noticed was my Apple Watch told me I averaged about 2 to 3,000 steps a day for a lot of years. So, I had no routine. In fact, I kind of prided myself in the fact I didn't drive home from work the same way twice in a row. I didn't have a morning routine. I hated routines. I rebelled against them. And the only routines and schedules I had were the ones my husband and my kids and my employer gave me. And I just followed them and I just did it. And I never even thought about habits or routines or anything like that. So that's kind of how life was before I started.
Hmm. Interesting, interesting. Don't you haven't you realized an awful lot about yourself just in your
Oh,
journey?
oh my gosh, yes. I know when I think about all I've learned just from the audios and just from my own talking to myself and looking back on stuff, it's really been amazing. Um, I guess I should tell a little bit about where I'm at now.
Yeah.
I'm on, and this is why we're here, because I said, when is somebody going to talk about being on a double digit cycle, like 10? Everybody was like, oh, I lost my weight, but it took me 6 cycles. I went, oh, poor them. I mean, it was so, I love those stories, and there's always something good, but man, everybody, oh, in 3 cycles, I lost all my weight. Oh, I had to do a fifth cycle, and I just go, come on, give me 10, give me 9 even. But anyway, so it wasn't to be. And maybe they're out there and maybe they're like me, I didn't want to share it. It's not. But I'm on my 14th consecutive cycle. I started January of 2025. Now, I was hoping to tell you that I've lost 80 pounds so far, and I'm going to tell you that. It was 79.8 this morning, but I know if I sneezed when I was on the scale, it would have been 80. So I'm going with that, 80 pounds. I've lost a total of 51 inches. I'm down 6 clothing sizes. I'm off all my meds. I was on blood pressure meds, asthma meds, and a CPAP. Now my CPAP is optional, and I'm not taking any of the other meds. My blood pressure is down 100 to 110 over 70s, usually
Mhm.
somewhere in there. Um, my resting pulse, I thought that was interesting when I went back to look at it. Used to be in the 80s, then it went to the 70s. Now it's in the mid to low 50s. I even asked the doctor when I went for my physical, is that too low? Do I have to worry about that? My A1C has always been good. I've been fortunate for that, but not my triglycerides. And after 6 months, about June of last year, I had a blood test and I was in the normal range. And then this year I went back at the 1st of June and it had dropped another 40 points, my triglycerides. So I'm at the bottom of the normal range. So that was kind of cool. So
Wow.
anyway, that's kind of where I'm at now.
That's
You can, oh,
amazing.
and maybe Beth can put that awful picture of me up, the one we
Oh,
finally found.
yeah, let's get the
Oh,
picture up. I love
I
this
mean, the
picture.
picture was taken in January. The good one was taken in January, so I think I even look better now.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
great! On my screen it says "pinch out for a bigger view." I don't need a bigger view, thank you.
No
So
pinching.
anyway, now that's actually that one on the left there. That's actually a better picture than I was, I think, because I was smiling there. I was actually happy. I was at the World Series celebration. And, most of the time I don't think I looked that happy, but that was the only picture that was cleared for release. So once I get to my final goal, I have the one in the black leotard thing. We'll get that out someday, but I got to get to my goal weight before we roll that baby out. So
So
anyway, okay.
do you mind me asking what you don't have to say the weight, but how many more pounds would you like to?
Well, I asked my doctor about that too because I wasn't even sure. So I'm thinking about 30 is what it sounds like.
Ooh, yeah.
30. which means I could, my little app on my phone that I have tells me, oh, I'll lose that by September. I'm going, yeah, right, okay. But I'm focusing on it. After not losing weight for a period of time, which was one of my obstacles, now this cycle I've lost 7. So finally, I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel that things are going to change. So anyway, but that was definitely an obstacle. I probably should talk about my obstacles, huh?
Yeah, we do. Yes, because you just made a breakthrough this
Right.
last cycle, was it? Or
Right. Yeah, the one that I'm on now. Well, my first two initial obstacles, I think, was the walking. That almost stopped me from even starting because obviously I was only walking 2,000 and they wanted you to do 5,000 before breakfast. And I was like, okay, well, that's a non-starter right there. But but I started, and that's the good news. And also changing of habits. I mean, like I said, I didn't have any real routines or anything. And I've told this story before, but when you had the walk and talks on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, there's no way I was getting up and walking, let alone even being dressed. And so I think the first couple walk and talks, I would turn on my phone, put on my headphones, turn off the camera and everything. And I just stayed in bed under my covers and listened to it. But that was the start and that was good. And those are become vital for me now. So those were two obstacles in the beginning. I think the bigger obstacles that happen along the way, and oh, people have told stories already that are far bigger obstacles than these, but they were big for me. I started when I started the program in January of 2025. I was having some pain in my hands, my one hand, but I didn't think it was any big deal. Anyways, it became a very big deal, and I lost the use of both my hands. I couldn't grip, I couldn't bend them. It was very painful. So I couldn't hold a steering wheel. I couldn't hold my toothbrush. I couldn't even cut my hands to wash my face. So I didn't get dressed some days. I had 3 months of hand therapy, 2 months of neck and back and arm therapy. No one ever really said what it was, but we're pretty sure it was a nerve or something in my back. And the funny thing is, all the doctors I saw through that whole thing, Healthpointe was the one thing I could control. I could choose what I was going to eat. I could walk. I could do those things. And every time I'd see the doctor and they'd see that I'd lost some weight, they'd say, well, what are you doing? They're all thinking that I've caused my problem or something. And then I'd tell them what I was doing, and they all encouraged me to continue it. You're doing it the right way, they'd say. So I'm like, holy cow, that was good news. So and they couldn't blame my problems on my weight because I was eating right, no processed food and all that. So I finally got through all that, and then I had a freak accident, and I will save you the gory details. But basically, I just peeled the skin up off the front of my shins on both legs when something hit me and did that to me. And so I had a whole month of compression bandages and going back and forth to the wound center, keeping my legs elevated. And obviously, there was no walking then. Then I recovered from that. And about a month and a half later, I was on vacation in Texas, and I got bit in the calf by a loose dog who didn't have his shots. Well, I dodged the rabies part, but I had another month of bandages and no walking and keeping my legs propped up. So I got through all those. Things seemed to smooth out, and then I hit, I don't know, plateau, whatever it was. I don't know, but for about 3 cycles, I would lose the same 2 pounds over and over, up, down, up, down. Goodness knows, Carol, as my coach, you were right there listening to me, whatever, all the things I said, a little bit of whining, a little bit of everything. But in retrospect, 40 years of overweight doesn't go away in a year and a half. It just doesn't. And we kept talking about memory weight and tweaking things and stuff. And I will have to say that I was pretty frustrated and pretty depressed. But thanks to you and to my encouragers, Kathy and Debbie, people kept reframing it for me and saying, this, no, it's not this, but you've already lost this much weight. And it just got me through. So I'd be depressed. And by the next day, okay, done with that pity party. So I think that really helped. And finally, like I said, this last session, I'm in the 4th week of my 14th session. Like I said, I've lost 7 pounds. I think I've gotten over that hump. I don't know how much longer it's going to take me, um, but if I can weather that many sessions or cycles without losing, I'm fine. I said at one point I thought my body decided it was on lifetime maintenance. That was it. It was just done. But apparently it's decided to get back with the program. So anyway, let's see what else. Want to talk a little bit about my non-scale victories?
yeah,
I wrote a few of
absolutely.
those down. Well,
But
there's
I
a
do have to say, all that time when you weren't losing weight, there were so many things going on in your body, mind, and spirit that were healing, readjusting, reacclimating, and becoming
Right,
part of you. And those are things, well, maybe that's one of your non-skill victories. Sorry, I don't mean to
right.
jump ahead, but
No, that's true. And I did lose inches, but I was so depressed I forgot to measure myself. So, I mean, I wasn't that depressed, but it was just frustrating because I was whipping along there for a while in the beginning, but there comes a time when the body goes, "All right, let's just cool," and you kept saying the body's going to do what the body's going to do. And so I would just started talking to my body, and that I think helped a little bit, saying the right things instead of the wrong things to myself. So yeah, there's a million non-scale victories, which thank goodness for that, because during when you're not losing weight on the scale, you got to have something. But I found things like when I went to Florida for the winter, I could shop in the boutique stores with regular sizes. I didn't have to look for a plus size store. So that was kind of cool. Um,
Mhm.
no, I don't have any more closets that are full of boxes and stuff that have on it what size. When I get to that size, I can open this box. I mean, I had tons of them. I must have given away, seriously, Al said he thought it was like 2 pickup trucks full of clothing I've donated. In fact, I've even donated clothes that I bought when I was 6 months into Healthpointe already. I mean, I've lost that. So it's been a quick turnover. We got big open closets now. I have to find something to fill it. Um, Another, yeah, I did mention the doctors and all the specialists, and the fact that they're all telling, I'm going back to 3 different specialists now for a recheck from all the problems last year. And every single one of them said to me, you know what, you're fine. I don't see anything. We don't need to do any more tests. And you know where we are. Call us if you need us, which nobody ever says that in the
Oh,
medical field, it seems like. So I also think that being emotionally stronger, again, thanks to the audios, which I think we'll talk a little bit about. But I recently had two of my dearest, dearest friends who have always been there for me, going through probably some of the toughest things you could go through, grief stuff and just and shocks to the system. And I was able, I've got a counseling background, but I am their friend. And the combination of that, I was very valuable to them. But I could not have done that prior to Health Point. It was because I wasn't in a good place. I was hanging on myself, and so I'm really pleased the timing was right for that, and that I was able to help them. So that meant a lot to me, and it's because again of the chemical change that happens from the audios and the books. So I wrote down some things. I said, "What am I?" I said, I'm happier. I'm more fit. I'm more joy filled. I'm definitely more patient. I'm better disciplined. Still not all the way there, but I'm much, much better. And I just find it easier now, almost natural to find the good in other people and the good in other things. And that's more me. And I'm happy to say that I've reclaimed that. So that's nice.
yeah. Wow.
But as long as I'm talking about the audios, I might as well just say, I mean, obviously you were crucial being my coach and helping me and everything. And my husband, who's just wonderful, he's not on
Mm.
Health Point, but he does so much of the food prep because he says I make a mess in the kitchen, but he's so good about it. He knows the program inside and out because he's got to know what I can eat and when. And I try to get in there to do stuff, and he goes, "No, no, no, I got it." So, and he also reminds me when it's time to eat, like on protein days. I go, "Have you had any protein?" When it's closing in on
Mm.
60 minutes. And I told him he's better than an Apple Watch. So, Kathy and Deb, my encouragers, I mentioned, they've been great, and especially when I get frustrated, they always seem to have a few good words on our little message board, and I really appreciate that, and it does really help. And there's countless of other members of the Zampa team and really the network team worldwide who have helped me. They just don't know it. They don't know what it is they said, and I don't even remember now. But at the time, just one thing. So everything that everybody shares on those walk and talks and on our community things is just so valuable, because you just never know what that one piece of information is, or just whatever they say is going to be helpful to you. But it's helpful to somebody, and that's kind of why I thought I'd share what's on my mind in my stories. So but the audios and the books, I've been reading, books on habits, books on self talk. The books on self talk, I'm finding are really what I needed, because I didn't realize how much stuff was rolling around in my head, and or even things I would write down. I go, oh, that's not what I really mean. Skip Ross
Was
always
there,
used to
there a
say
couple of
that.
particular, was there a couple of particular ones you wanted to mention?
Well, you mean books?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, that's Shad Helmstetter. I'd read that years ago and I thought it was wonderful. And I bought the new edition and I've really just been devouring it lately and going back and reading it over again. And then the two we did on habits, I forget the names of them. The small
The
habits.
tiny habits.
Yeah, that's it,
Yeah.
Tiny Habits. And so that's been really good. And I even picked up the book Let Them because I was getting frustrated with a few other people in my life. And I've been using that little bits and pieces of that. So it's typical of me. I usually have about 4 or 5 books going at once, but it's amazing to me how they all blend together. Now, maybe it's just because it's me and that's what I needed, but I'll read something in one book and then that afternoon I'll read something in the other book. Oh, that's the same thing they said over there. Or, oh, yeah, that's how those two things go together. In terms of the audios, I think the thing I like the most, so I was fairly well educated in having my degree in movement science and physical education. And I knew all about the body and I took anatomy and kinesiology and physiology and all those things. But I didn't know how the body worked. I thought I did, when it
Mm.
comes to food and learning how the brain and the body.
Oop, we just we just lost you. You're unmuted. Sound. Sound.
Oh, I don't know what
Okay,
happened.
there you go. You're good.
Okay, I
Yeah,
don't know
you
what
blocked out.
happened.
I don't know either. You just blocked out the last couple sentences.
Oh, well, it's probably my internet. I better keep talking fast,
Yeah,
huh?
talk fast, right?
Um, but anyway, the fact that the body and the brain works together so well and in a cohesive way, and that all the changes that go on physically and biologically that we have no idea that's going on just because we said something that triggered the cortisol or all that. That's fascinating to me because once I know, and then also how nutrition works and all that, once I knew how that actually worked, now it wasn't just somebody's idea of a diet. It was, this is what happens, and I can believe it or not, but it's what's happening. And so it makes more sense to me. And I just learned from Nancy Morton today on the audio that vitamin B12 is going to help me burn fat. Well, that was new to me. So after 14 cycles, I'm still learning things. So the one audio in particular that struck a chord with me the other day was the one called The One Thing, and she was talking about focusing on the one thing. And I actually was walking and I stopped my thing and I said, what is my one thing? Because I've read that book, but of course I didn't follow through on it. And I just stopped in the middle of the street and I said out loud, my health. And then I felt guilty. It's funny. I didn't know I felt guilty, but I felt kind of guilty for having said that because there's faith, there's family, there's all these other things. And I said health. And then I turned it back on and she proceeded to say that that's what Mitch Sala said was his one thing because that affects everything. And so I went, oh, well, see, and you shouldn't have felt guilty. I'm still working on my self-talk. Um, but anyway, somewhere along the line, thanks to the audios, I stopped thinking, and of course, I lost some weight, but I'm still according to the charts, I'm in the obese range. So who knows? But somewhere along the line, I stopped thinking about losing weight, and weight did not become the focus, and health became the focus. And I attribute that, I think, to the audios because they do talk about optimal health. And, weight is weight, but your health there's a whole lot more to it than that. And so I really think that's been a big factor. And, just all the events that we have and I'm looking forward to Atlanta, and I didn't get to see everybody out in Arizona this year. So I'm looking forward to Atlanta. And there's just all the walk and talks and everything. They're just so valuable that I tried. If I can't listen to them at the time they're going on, I plug them in later and listen to them. So, let's see. I don't know what else you want me. I got any time left? I mean, I'm
You got a
here.
couple more minutes. Yeah, anything last minute you want to share?
Well,
I just want to compliment you real quick, and then I want you to continue on. We got 3-4 minutes, but I
Okay.
do want to say that Laurelle, you have always been really excellent on following the program. And even though you got stuck and what have you, you never faltered from accountability. You never faltered from transparency, from attendance, all of those things. So that I want to make sure that folks know that's a real feather in your cap. So, okay, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Take a last couple of minutes before the golden hook comes out.
Well, I remember you saying that sometimes people didn't turn their forms in. I go, well, why wouldn't you? I mean, it just seemed like, well, okay. I put some final thoughts down, and I said, what I was thinking was that the fact that perfection is a trap. That's what had me trapped. So many of the diets and things I tried had rules, but with HP, there's no such thing as a cheat day. And I have to remind myself, and I'm very good at it now, that no one is forcing me to do this. Everything I do is a choice, and I'm free to make that choice. Like Massimo would say, it's easy to do and easy not to do, but it's always my free choice, and I do it of free will. And so I won't self-destruct and rebel against myself like I've done so many other times trying to lose weight. And I think also having a lot of weight to lose is an advantage because you've got more time to work on it, more time for it to become a habit. And it's kind of like you're on lifetime maintenance ahead of the schedule. I wrote down that what I've told myself many times is that Healthpointe is something that I am, not something that I'm doing. It's not another project that I need to accomplish. It's a process. It's always going to be ongoing, and it's just a process, and it's a process of learning. So I guess I would say to anybody out there that can identify with anything I said, boy, don't wait. I'm 72. I could kick myself for not starting sooner, but there's a reason for that too, and it doesn't do me any good to even worry about that. So my goal now really, instead, I don't want to watch life go by. I want to participate in it. I want to be active. I want to be, doing all those things that I used to do. I won't do them quite as well, but I want to be outdoors. I want to be moving around and just participating in life to the fullest as long as I can. So I hope somebody gets inspired by at least one thing. And you're never too old to lose your weight, your age and weight. I've surpassed it. Okay. I can get to 80 now and say that I've lost my years in pounds. So thank
I
you for
love it.
asking me. I hope it was valuable to somebody.
Well, if it wasn't valuable to anybody else, it sure was valuable to me.
Well,
So if your coach gets all excited about it, I guess everybody else will too.
well, you get a lot of credit for that. That's for
No,
sure.
no, you did it. And we are extremely proud of you. And thank you so much for telling your story tonight. And other folks, when you don't hear your story, well, maybe they're waiting for you to tell your story, right, Laurel?
Yep. Yep. That's right. If you don't hear it, then you got to tell it.
That's right. That's right. Well, you go out and continue your wonderful journey. And you and Al, we're just so proud of you. Al is your silent partner behind the scenes. And we're just excited to hear your continued journey towards your goal. And thank you so much for sharing tonight. It was absolutely
Well,
awesome.
thank you for asking. All right.
Have a great night, everybody.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.